Another perfect start for Arsenal, another unbeaten game, but a comeback needed once again as Mikel Arteta's side score three more goals at the Emirates and it's 7 up for our German fantastic. This is the Arsenal Raw Reaction Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal Raw Reaction Show. I nearly said the wrong one there, but very closely escaped. Thank you, as always, for joining me and making this a part of your morning routines. It's incredibly appreciated, and I hope you are having a absolutely fantastic afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you happen to be in this wonderful place we call this Earth. So thank you as always for tuning in, and if you could drop a like and subscribe, that would also be very much appreciated indeed. You are all very much welcome to continue supporting us here and joining us for a chat, of course, of this brilliant occasion that is a brand new season and Arsenal winning another 3 points, keeping up the pace in the title race, remaining unbeaten. They've really overcome this difficult start to the campaign that they were given by the fixture computer, and we are finally moving ahead into some pretty exciting periods now with this international break. Yes, it brings something of a lull, something of a frustration. Don't you worry, we'll still be producing 8 a.m. content every single day for you across the next 2 weeks, keeping you entertained, keeping you locked in, keeping you educated into everything that's going on. It is our most challenging time of the year, the international break. So if you could continue to join us every morning before you head off to work, before you head off to school, whatever you happen to be doing in the mornings, that would be really appreciated indeed. So stick with us over the next 2 weeks and we can get through this international break together. Good morning to those joining us, though, in the chat box. You are all incredibly appreciated. Blackshine, Arasilki, Paul, Tom, Damien, Matt G, NSW, Edison, Blackshine, Paul, John, Olawale, Steve, Sir Nicholas, Rob, Vivian. We've got Granddaddy Gooner, Stevie, Anns, other Paul, Steve, Amira, Angela, Manning, and plenty more of you guys and girls as well. So let's jump into today's slides, shall we? And very much looking forward to talking about this one because I think there's a lot of nuances in this game, a lot of talking points in this game. And of course, we'll get to your comments and thoughts in part 2 of the show as well. So make sure you hold on to those burning questions that you might have as well. A comeback was indeed needed to get that deserved victory, but it was without question a deserved victory from Arsenal yesterday at the Emirates Stadium in the afternoon. 29 shots, 6 on target across the day. You could argue that we needed to see more of those shots, of course, hitting the target. And there was an air of frustration growing throughout the game. This, of course, builds on from Arsenal's 35 shots that they had against Leicester City a week prior. So that's well over 60 shots across those 2 games. And, of course, Arsenal had plenty of chances as well in the PSG game. But it is here that we found ourselves frustrated by half-time. We were unable to really get a grip and get into those key positions. There were chances that weren't, of course, taken. There were a couple of warning signs from Southampton as well. The big narrative, of course, was Aaron Ramsdale's presence in the opposition side. I thought he had a really good game, to be fair. I think he made a real good point of coming out and trying to claim free kicks and crosses and corners, which he did really well. I actually am writing a piece about all of the set pieces that Arsenal had yesterday and rating them, and Ramsdale features heavily as someone who proved to be somewhat of a hero for Southampton in those. And it was no set pieces that led to any of Arsenal's 3 goals in yesterday's afternoon game. We did decide to rotate, and we rotated quite heavily. We gave rests to players like, of course, Martinelli, who was on the bench. We've got some injury issues, which led to some changes. Trossard was also given something of a rest, and we gave opportunities to to Raheem Sterling, to Gabriel Jesus, to Jorginho. We gave opportunities to these players to come in and make claims for potentially future appearances. I thought that Jorginho and Sterling had decent games. I was underwhelmed by Gabriel Jesus' performance on the day. And I did say in the preview show on Friday that Thomas Partey could indeed be chosen at right back. And lo and behold, Thomas Partey was chosen at right back. I swear I had no inside knowledge on that one. It was just kind of putting the jigsaw pieces together. But overall, relatively happy with what we saw on the day from the team as a collective. Individually, we got some question marks, though. It was a dominant first half, plenty of chances we spoke about, but the second half started, and similar to the game against Leicester, once again, Arsenal's second half found themselves with goals going into the back of the net. And Cameron Archer, yes, gets a little bit fortunate with the deflection off Saliba's block, but he gets the goal. And then Arsenal are under pressure. Then the feeling is this is Southampton, a team that notoriously take points off the Gunners. 2 years ago, of course, in the 22-23 season, we drew 3-3 in this game at the Emirates and drew 1-1 at St Mary's. And those 4 points proved massive when it came to the title race and to ultimately Arsenal not beating Manchester City. And so getting results over teams that are, what we would call banana skins here is really key. And we managed to do it in the end, but there was some real fear, some real worries that indeed this would be yet another option as well. But Kai Havertz responded almost immediately. Brilliant work from Bukayo Saka to win the ball back before playing the ball into Havertz, who finishes absolutely expertly. These are the types of finishes that I've wanted to see from Kai. We can see the headers that I love to see him dominate the box, the finishes, the little tap-ins that he can score, being in the right place at the right time. But this is the type of finish that I want to see from Kai Havertz on a regular basis, where he absolutely thunderblasts the ball into the back of the net from outside the box. Curling effort, beautifully struck, and showcased his finishing ability, which, on form, really, really good. 7 Emirates games in a row. Kai Havertz has now scored in a brilliant record, brilliant return, and continuing to show that that's £65 million. What an absolute bargain that's proven to be. But it was on Gabriel Martinelli, a man who, again, I feel as though could have done with a goal. And my goodness me, what a goal this is. And what a delivery from Bukayo Saka this was. It was excellent to see the ball swung in from the man who created 13 shot creating actions throughout the match, far and beyond anybody else in this game. Saka was on it in terms of his creation. Fantastic ball to the back post, but the finish is such a difficult finish to get it into the near post, to get it at Ramsdale's right boot and squeeze it through that tiny little gap. Brilliant play from Martinelli, brilliant finish from him, brilliant cross from Saka. And then Arsenal are in the driving seat, got their control, got their lead. At this point, of course, there were still leads going on. Liverpool had already won. Manchester City were leading quite comfortably by this point as well. And so therefore, there was kind of an expectation and a pressure growing around Arsenal to get the result as well as we very much needed to do. But the VAR check was painful. I obviously am in the ground in the press box and have the benefit of a screen to look at in front of me. And what tends to happen in these VAR moments is right in front of me, I'm usually in the second row of the press box. And so you have the first row, which there's always a few empty seats there. But then in front of that is just the entire West Stand, who just simultaneously spin and with outstretched arms are looking at you, asking for an answer, asking to know what's going on, because those in the crowd have absolutely no idea what's going on in these moments. And there was, what stuck with me was this woman who was in block, I think 29, block 29 or block 30. She was she was looking at me. I think she had her kids with her. She was looking at me just like gesticulating, like, what's going on? And I'm sitting there going, like, I don't know. They've not drawn the lines. They weren't drawing the lines. And for some reason, I don't know why it took so long for the lines to be drawn. But what they don't do these days is they don't draw the lines in, like, you don't see them do it. So you have to actually wait until the lines have been drawn and then it pops up on the screen. So it pops up on the screen that Martinelli is onside. And I'm going thumbs up to the people in the crowd. This woman's kind of doing the whole, we worship you type thing, because I've told them that the goal's going to stand. But then it was another 10 long seconds between me seeing on the screen that it had been given. I think probably longer than 10 seconds, to be fair. Me seeing it on the screen, and then, of course, the crowd being told, the referee being told. I don't know why it takes so long for them to make the decision that it is indeed offside and to then deliver that decision to the referee. It takes forever. Like, I was giving the thumbs up to the fans in front of me, to the people around, and then they were turning around again saying, "Why is it not being given?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It's onside. I've seen that it's onside. I don't know why they've not given it." And of course, then it does get given, and then we do get the jubilation that it's been that it's fine. But it was very tight. It was very, very tight, and it was a perfect run in the end and a perfect cross from Bukayo Saka, and it was a really great moment in the day and one that will stick with me for, I think, for quite some time. But we needed to get that third. We needed to secure the points, and we needed to take the pressure off. And thank goodness to not Bukayo Saka, but thank goodness to Sugawara, the Japanese defender, who, of course, for some reason, decided to take an exceptionally heavy touch across his own box, straight into the path of Bukayo Saka, and then smashed into the bottom left-hand corner. Yeah, very much all of that and appreciating the heavy touch, because it gifted us that third goal. It gifted us that third goal as well. And great finish on his right foot. Really deserved a goal for this game. He had a fantastic performance overall. As I say, 13 goal creating actions throughout the match, and that's for context. The next highest was Declan Rice, who created 7. Kai Havertz created 6. Trossard coming off the bench, right, as late as he did, created 5 shot creating actions in the small amount of time that he was on the field. He had a really impactful kind of substitute performance, did Trossard. But Saka's 13 shot creating actions, of course, really top performance from him. I think probably the man of the match in the game. But there were some other players that I want to give some credit to, one of them being Calafiori. I was incredibly impressed with Ricardo Calafiori. His tackling, his physicality, his reading of the game, his passing. I loved his performance. I think it's his best performance in an Arsenal shirt so far. He was good against Man City. He was good, other than the mistake, of course, but he was good against Man City, I thought. He was good against PSG. He's been good. And I thought this was his best game. I thought this was his best game in an Arsenal shirt so far. Some of the tackles that he made in this fixture were stunning. Like the way in which he kind of claws his foot like a David Seaman-esque save round the ball when you don't think he can make it. And he somehow gets the ball and comes away with it and then goes on to play a great pass or drive the ball forwards. It was an excellent move, an excellent play on numerous occasions from Calafiori. And it's going to be very difficult to see when other players are going to start making their way into that team. For a player that looked quite chaotic and rash and raw at the start of his time with us in such a quick space of time, I'm seeing the refined elements of his game. And it's looking very, very good with Calafiori in our back line. I want to talk about Partey at right back, because for me, Partey's performance, as watching it in the flesh, I was having a very, very close eye on Thomas Partey's performance, because I knew that this performance was going to be one that was going to be heavily looked at by you guys listening, you guys watching, because I know there is a lot of trepidation about the decision to play Partey. Right, we didn't have much of a choice. Tomiyasu, of course, wasn't fit enough to start, and with both Ben White and Jurriën Timber out of the team, Arteta had to make a call, and so he decided to keep Calafiori at left back rather than moving him to right back, and instead of obviously having Kivior on the bench as well. But eventually brought Tomiyasu on, and I think that, you know, it's better to have a more natural player. Partey isn't a right back. We know that. He's not a right back. And he made one mistake in the second half where he kind of played the ball off of, I can't remember who it was, if it was Fernandez, but thankfully it kind of went right back to him. The biggest downside of having Partey at right back is the partnerships. The partnerships with Saka, the partnerships with the right side of midfielder, the partnerships aren't there in the same way. He doesn't combine in the same way that Timber and the White tend to combine. He doesn't overlap. He's a supportive figure, is what he's there to do. He's there to support the attack. He's not there to be part of the attack, even though he has a couple of shots. That's not what he's there for. He's there to support the forward line, to service them. And I just wanted to give you some of the stats from the game around Partey. I did this last year against Fulham because obviously there's a lot of pressure on the decision to play Partey at right back, and there's a lot of numbers last year I thought that were ignored. And I just want to give you some of the stats from Partey's game. These are the ranked stats for each of these different metrics according to Opta on FBref. He ranked first in the team for touches, second in the team for carries, first in the team for tackles won. And bear in mind how many tackles Calafiori won in this game. Second in the team for interceptions, second in the team for passes through to the final third, and first in the team for progressive passes. This, for me, that showcases, the benefits of what he brought to the game. This was, a better performance than I think people are giving him credit for, simply because he's not that usual right back. He's not Timber, he's not White. And when you play Partey at right back, he's not going to do what White and Timber do. It's a needs must. It's a necessity. It was because we had to. And we did it because we had to. Can we have Partey at right back? Yes. And yesterday's results showcase that. And the numbers here showcase that, yes, we can do it. I wouldn't describe it as a fantastic right-back performance, because it wasn't. It wasn't a fantastic right-back performance because he didn't do a lot of the things that that Timber and that White do. And that's fine. But to suggest that he doesn't do good things there, like you think about the interceptions he made, the tackles that he made, the progressive passes that he made, just the passes into the final third that he made, and Senki says, Tom, that just shows he was targeted. I'm sorry, that's a cop-out of a comment, because if you're being targeted, you're not playing the most passes into the final third because you're being targeted. You're not progressing to play the most in your team with passes because you're being targeted. You're doing that because it's what you're doing on the ball. You're doing that. And Calafiori made loads of tackles to the left. He still ranks the highest for tackles won in this team, according to FBref. So give credit where it's due, and there is credit deserved for that performance. And the reality is that he's not going to give the same level of performance as Ben White or as Timber, but he can give you a solid display. And yesterday we saw a solid display. And that's the reality of his performance there. The last person that I want to talk about today is Raheem Sterling. I could do a little bit more on Gabriel Jesus, but I feel as though he may come up in part two. I've seen some split kind of views on this. I've seen some split opinions on Raheem Sterling's performance. I was relatively impressed with the performance overall. Martinelli coming on and scoring, I think, puts a bit of an edge onto it from a personal point of view, because when Martinelli comes on and scores and Sterling's not scored, it raises, obviously, the whole, well, Martinelli should have started. But I spoke to Martinelli after the game. I got an interview coming out of him a little bit later on tonight or tomorrow morning, maybe. And there's a feel of, rotation is necessary. Sterling has a characteristic that he has had throughout his entire career that he just can't seem to shift. And that is, ironically, something that I've been very critical of Martinelli also for having for a lot of his career, if not all of his time with Arsenal. And it's just that he takes the extra touch too many times. That the ball isn't released, the decision isn't made, the shot isn't taken soon enough. And that there just is that little extra touch that is not necessary. And that if the time taken to take that extra touch was instead turned into a pass or a cross or, just anything else other than the extra touch, I think he would be taking, like Martinelli would too, their games to another level. That said, I still liked his performance. I liked what he provided. I liked the directness of his play. He created chances. He created problems. He could have got a penalty at one point. There was a moment where he could have won a penalty, I thought, in the first half. It was a bit 50-50. Some refs, I think, might give it. Some won't, as we saw yesterday. I wasn't really impressed with the referee's performance yesterday, but it is what it is. He was getting into dangerous positions. He's direct. He's dangerous, and he's an asset. And yes, I think Martinelli's our starting left winger. And yes, I think that Trossard, when Ødegaard is back, is probably ahead of Sterling as well. But he is still, without question, an asset to this team. And I think that is a good point that we need to just accept at this stage. We need to accept that Sterling has been a decent acquisition. He offers more to us, I think, than Nelson was there. And we ultimately are in a position where we've needed that depth. And I think Sterling is going to prove to be something of an asset this season for Arsenal. And I think he's going to prove to be something that we needed to bring in before that window slammed shut. The window certainly isn't shut, though, for you to go and grab the best deal in VPNs. And that is, of course, courtesy of Nord. VPN, of which you can get a significant discount off a 1 or a 2 year plan and 4 months extra thrown in free on top of that 2 year deal. Do not hesitate. Make sure that you get yourself a significant discount and a significant helping of safety and security when you are surfing the internet online, whether you're in a public cafe somewhere. You need to be using a VPN to make sure you're keeping your data safe. Public Wi-Fi services are not secure always, so make sure that you're doing everything you can to protect your data and your personal details. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee on top of this if you're not happy with the service for whatever reason. And of course, if you're going on holiday somewhere, a VPN is also a must so that you can change your geolocation and head back to the UK maybe if you're from here and you're going abroad and you want to watch Match of the Day. Well, you can by hopping back to the UK digitally and go on an iPlayer and watch Match of the Day. It's very impressive indeed. An absolute must in today's day and age. Of course, the Football Prizes competition, you can win a signed and framed version of the Gabriel Martinelli shirt, a goal scorer on your wall. Could be yours. There are 37 tickets left to win this signed and framed Gabriel Martinelli shirt. The early bird price is sadly no longer available. It's $3.95 a ticket, and there are only 37 of them going. And there's some instant win prizes, I'm sure, that are left too in this competition that you could potentially win. Link down in the description as always. Right, let's go to part 2 and your questions then right after this. Okay, this is part 2 of the show where we tackle some of your questions and more. So if you would like to throw some questions into the chat box, now is the time to do so. Looking forward. Shall we scroll up in the chat a little bit more and get some of your thoughts? James says Partey was class. Even Timber hasn't linked amazingly with Saka yet. It takes time. His retention and tackling was incredible considering. I mean, Timber has linked amazingly with Saka. Having been someone who's watched every single game this season and been there to do so, I can tell you with absolute confidence that Timber has indeed linked with Saka very, very well at times, far more than we saw from Partey yesterday. But that's not to diminish Partey's performance. But I don't agree on the link up. I think the link up is far superior with Timber and with Ben White as well. Lay Bloomer says, but with Partey, there were still somehow more one-on-one situations than usual. I tell you what, Arteta weren't happy again with some of Saka's tracking back. He did it against PSG. I've noticed it 2 games in a row now. He wants Saka to do more tracking back. Saka does get a proper rollicking at times from Arteta for not doing enough to get back. And I think that's something maybe to keep our eyes on. Is Saka putting in the work, getting back enough? Because I think that's something that he still gets a little bit of feedback from Arteta about. Byron says, Tom, agree or disagree? Moreno's style of play is looking more like Ramsey's than like Xhaka. I'm not there yet. He's not really played too much. He's only obviously come off the bench twice. I can't make a judgment about a former player of those 2 calibers. Yeah, I'm expecting it to be more like Xhaka. But he's come on in situations where Arsenal are obviously very dominant in the attack and looking for a goal in the game against Southampton. Less so against PSG. I wouldn't go with that comparison just yet. We need a lot more exposure before we make some points like that. Roy says, Tom, any reason why Raya didn't wear the 3rd team keeper kit as the 1st team keeper kit clashed with Southampton? Absolutely no idea, Roy. I'm afraid I can't give you any guidance on that one. I can give you, though, some stats, actually, because there were some really interesting stats. Of course, we had the one yesterday of Kai Havertz scoring 7 Emirates home games in a row, which is incredibly impressive. Arsenal against promoted sides in the last 41 matches have won 36 and drawn 5. Again, another very, very impressive record that Arsenal have got against promoted teams. Certainly one that at home, I think that's, by the way, that's not just an away. Obviously, we have lost games away from home, but at home, it's a very, very impressive record indeed. And one I think, of course, that we can continue. It's going to be a big benefit to us moving forwards. There was one other as well. I think Saka had a stat yesterday that sadly, off the top of my head, I can't remember. But I'll see if I can find it. Saka stat. Across Europe's top 5 leagues this season, Saka has 7 assists, 13 big chances created, and 27 key passes at the moment. which is the most across Europe's top 5 leagues, which is also very, very impressive. Statman Dave on Saka's performances: 28 out of 31 final third passes first, 11 crosses first, 7 shots first, 7 chances created first, 2 assists first, 1 goal first. What a performance. Indeed. Very, very good. Very good performance from Bukayo Saka. Right, shall we talk about Gabriel Jesus? I think that there's a lot of people in the chat box putting his name in there. It wasn't a great performance from him at all. I'm looking at his statistics from the game: 3 shots, 17 touches, 0.4 xG, 3 chances. I mean, considering when you think about Saka had 13 chances created, it was also a starter. Jesus created 3 chances. Rice created 7. Havertz created 6. Trossard came on for Jesus and created 5 chances, despite Jesus being on from the start and arguably being on the field with more dominance of the ball as well. He completed 9 passes across that whole performance with a 69.2% accuracy, which, looking down the list, is only beaten by Jakub Kiwior, who obviously came on very late and had a very low pass completion. 69.2% for Jesus' pass completion was lower than Sterling's, lower than Trossard's, lower than Mika Marino, who came on, of course, lower than Saka's, lower than Calafiori's, lower than Tomiyasu's, who came on. Not great. He played 2 progressive passes. He is a centre forward, so it's harder to do that. But so did Trossard when he came off the bench. He carried the ball 13 times and had 1 successful take on. Wasn't a good performance from Gabriel Jesus, and it felt very much like I don't know. I don't know if it's not a turning point necessarily, because I don't think it's obviously like a sharp turn from what we've already been seeing, but there is a lack of confidence there. There is a frustration there. And there's just a feeling of wanting more from him. The injuries, I think, have obviously taken their toll, and I think that obviously that's grown mentally as an issue with him, but he needs to perform more. And yes, he's not going to be starting too many games. Yes, he's not going to be getting all the opportunities that he might want, but he needs to do more. He needs to do better. He needs to be in the game more. He needs to want the ball more. He needs to play the ball more. And at the moment, that's not happening for him. You know, at the moment, he is not doing enough to get the into the right positions, getting the ball into the right positions, and yeah, that's not amazing from him. So it could be better. Someone asked for Jorginho stats. Jorginho, 92.7% pass accuracy, 19 carries of the ball, 3 shot creating actions. You know, so, and he was playing in the deepest part of the midfield, of course. It's worth pointing out. In terms of defensive actions from Jorginho, didn't do too much defending. Made 1 tackle, no interceptions, no clearances. I suppose it wasn't really a performance to get too many defensive actions, I guess, but I thought he's okay. Like, it didn't really stand out to me as someone that needed criticised. Didn't stand out to me as someone who needed loads of praise. Jorginho just did the job. Just did the job that he needed to do. Maximus says, I think Gabby Jesus is fragile mentally. He quickly gets into a shell when things don't go right. Simon says, wasn't Havertz offside for Martinelli's goal? Mika Moreno was standing in offside position, Simon, but he did interfere with play, so it didn't matter. John says, Maximus, wow, that's a statement. Oh, I wonder what the statement was. Let me see if I can find it. Maximus says, is Jesus taking over the Nketiah role? I felt Nketiah was doing better than this. Not the stuff of champions from Jesus. I mean, technically, of course, because he's a substitute. So just by definition, he's kind of taking over the Nketiah role, isn't he? But if you mean he's taking over the Nketiah role by way in which fans talk about him, I guess in some ways he will as well, because of the position that he has in the team. John says, Jesus frustrated me yesterday, held onto the ball for too long. He looks like a player who is struggling to find his niche. Nathan says, Jesus still has a big part to play, though, in this season. And I do agree. I still think Jesus has a big part to play in this season and will be an important part of this season. But at the moment, it's not great from him. It's not great. HB says, please don't give up on Jesus. He just needs minutes to get his fitness and sharpness back, and he'll be more important across the season. I hope that you're right. Walter says, like Martinelli, I feel Jesus just needs a goal to lift his spirits and his confidence, and then we might see him cook again. Rob says, do you think Arteta has got PTSD from sidelining senior players? Time for him to bite the bullet and stop playing Jesus because he's just second captain. I'll give you a statement and where I feel I am with this. If Havertz was going to start this game, which he of course did, I would have rather Ethan Nwaneri played at the 10 and Havertz up top than played Jesus in this game. That might be something of a hot take, and it's easy to say with the benefit of hindsight, but that was my 11 in the preview show on Friday. That's what I would have rather seen personally, is Havertz up top and Nwaneri playing in the 10. I think that Arteta will argue that he needs to give minutes to those senior figures, but I felt like this was a game where we could have played Nwaneri. We could have done something in this. The game state didn't, in the end, allow us to bring a Nwaneri. I don't think you can bring him on in the game state that we found ourselves in personally. And I understand the decision not to bring him on, but we could have started him. We could have started Nwaneri in this game. The answer as to why he didn't start is very simple. Of course, Jesus being the senior figure and Arteta feeling you need to give minutes to those senior players is why he started Jesus, of course, in this game. But from a personal perspective, I would have rather seen Nwaneri start this game. You can't complain about the lineup. We won the game. You can have your preferences, but we won the game. And we got the goal, of course, with those players on the pitch. We made the changes and then got the second goal. But and we were dominant, like we deserved to win the game. It wasn't like we struggled. We were creating a lot of chances. We could have been 2, 3, 4 up by half time, of course, if we just had a few things go our way, if the ball had fallen into the right position and players got into some better positions. It could have been very simple for us. But yeah, that's kind of where my head's at on Jesus. But we can draw a line under the Jesus thing for now. Of course, he'll be staying with the team over the course of the international break, working with Mikel Arteta. Hopefully, indeed, it has another positive impact on him, and we'll see if indeed it does. Owen says, last time you've seen a returning player receive reception like Ramsdale did. The last time I saw a player receive was in the summer when Granit Xhaka came back. That's the last time I can think of a player get a reception like that. So not so long ago, because Xhaka came back with Bayer Leverkusen in the summer friendly and got a very, very good reception in pre-season. But I sadly didn't see Ramsdale after the game. I was hoping to see him, but naturally he was swamped and very busy after the game. He was in the Arsenal dressing room, I'm told. Yeah, I think understandably so. He was a real cult hero at the club, and a lot of people, really appreciate and respect him. He was pictured in tears after the game because of the reception that he got. I think they're tears that are, and this is me purely speculating, but in my opinion, I think they're genuinely not necessarily tears of appreciation. I'm sure he does appreciate it, massively so. I think they're genuinely tears of sadness. I think Aaron Ramsdale is absolutely gutted to be in the situation that he is in. And that's no disrespect to Southampton. But the reality is that Ramsdale, being an absolutely lovely bloke and one of the nicest people that I had the pleasure of interviewing after games whenever he would speak to us, I think he genuinely believed this was kind of, that Arsenal would be his club for the next however many years. Unfortunately, for him, that's not the case. And it's not the case because Arsenal had to be ruthless. They absolutely needed to be ruthless. And Raya is a better goalkeeper. And I think he's always going to be a better goalkeeper. And I think has taken our level up in that position very considerably. And so I think that's just the way that I feel about it. I feel absolutely gutted for him, and I feel really, really genuinely affectionate and sorry for him that this is the way that it goes. But this is the way that it goes. The best teams in the world, you can't be cute, cuddly animals that have all the sympathy in the world and make decisions based upon that, based upon our liking for players' personalities. Ramsdale's a very good goalkeeper, but Raya could be a potentially world-class keeper. And I think I saw world-class performances from Ramsdale, personally. I know that there's world-class performances in Ramsdale. If he's at a top team, I think he can deliver some absolutely top level, elite level performances. But I think there's potential for Raya to be an established world-class goalkeeping figure for the long-term inconsistency. So I think that's kind of where I'm at. BX isn't he a Saints supporter? No, he's a West Brom fan, isn't he? I think Ramsdale. Pretty sure he's a West Brom fan. I might be wrong. I'm really sure he's a West Brom fan. He went to the Southampton game. That's why maybe people are getting confused. He went to Southampton's promotion game because he's good friends with Brooks, of course, from his time at Bournemouth. So that's why he was at the Southampton game. He's a northern lad. Well, he's a black country lad. Maggie says, of course, Ramsdale is gutted. He went from challenging for major honours and potentially England's number one to a relegation battle. Chinho says, I just feel that Ramsdale is too good for Southampton. He did not deserve to be relegated to with a third club. And it's very hard at the moment to not think that is what will happen. I cannot see a way back for Southampton at the moment. I hope I'm proven wrong. I've never been like the biggest fan of Southampton. They've taken a lot of points off us in the past, which leads to some element of frostiness towards them naturally. But I really hope they stay up for Ramsdale's sake. I really, really, really do. And I hope a lot of Arsenal fans feel the same way. I hope that it's Ipswich. I hope that it's Leicester. I hope that it's Everton. With all respect to those listening that are those fans of those clubs, I'm sorry. But yeah, I really hope Southampton don't go down. Wolves are down there at the moment as well. But they've lost 6 games and drawn just 1. It's incredible, like the difference, the change for a player to go from there to there. And he's made that choice. Like it's not like Arsenal pushed him out the door in terms of a sale, to my understanding. From my perspective, I don't think Arsenal pushed him out the door. He wanted the move. Maybe not specifically to Southampton, but he wanted a move in the summer. He wanted to play regularly. He knew that to get back into the England squad, he had to play week in, week out to get back into that England team and have a chance of starting, because he was being on the bench for Arsenal was not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. He wanted to go. And we were happy to let him go when we got the amount of money that we wanted, which was, I still think a very decent figure. But you got to respect that decision. You got to respect the fact that he prioritized playing over being at a club and potentially getting chances at Arsenal, being their goalkeeper. And I sincerely wish him all the best. And I really hope that he succeeds. And I really hope Southampton stay up. And I really hope that he can build back his career in a really positive way. He's got a lot of time left in his career, a lot of time left to go. I'm not worried about him in that sense. I'm only worried about kind of the club that he's at. And yeah, I just hope that he goes on to have a really, 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 really successful career. Alex says, do you see Liverpool as much of a threat as City for the title? Haven't played the big teams, but look incredibly solid and reliable. I keep expecting them to drop points, but no, they haven't. At the moment, you have to, yeah. But if you have a look at their fixtures coming up after the international break, that's the test. That's the big test for Arne Slot, is that run of games coming up. They beat us in pre-season. Of course, it was pre-season. We're missing a lot of our key players. But yeah, it's a big test for them. A big test for them coming up in the summer and, in the next few weeks. And they come to the Emirates at the end of October. That's our next home game. Amazingly so, our next home game is against Liverpool. So that's going to be very interesting. Ant says, I'm interested, Tom, has Nketiah scored for Palace yet? No, he's been played like off the right. He's like, Palace, by the way, are not having a very good season at all. He has scored for them. He scored for them in the League Cup. But he's been playing like off the right-hand side. I think he played at centre forward yesterday in their 1-0. He actually had a goal ruled out, I think, yesterday. But yeah, he's been playing like in these really weird positions. The issue that Palace have got is that they've got Mateta, who is rightfully their starting centre forward, and so Nketiah is not being that starting centre forward figure too much. And It's not necessarily working out for him at the moment. It seems that Palace, all of the hype around Palace before the season started, they've lost their biggest creator, of course, in Michael Elise, and that has really damaged them. I think that the loss of Elise has been a huge blow to them, and they could end up struggling somewhat. I think they've made some good signings. They've got some good players, but it's not clicking for Palace at the moment. VRL says, I've been surprised how poor Palace have been. I know Elise is a big miss, but to go down such a level is big. And Anderson as well, Nick points out too. Anderson's a big loss for them also. John says, I don't think we panic bought in Neto. I don't think he was our first choice replacement. Home Garcia was, but we wouldn't have our pants pulled down by Espanyol for the price. So we signed Neto. I think, yeah, that's absolutely spot on. Of course, on deadline day, you've lost a backup goalkeeper. You brought in one on loan. You weren't willing to pay big money for Garcia, and I don't blame them. I think that next summer we've now got a lot more time to kind of look at the market for the number 2 goalkeeper, and that's something we'll spend a lot more time doing, which is important that we do that. Right, I think that's probably a nice way to end today's show. Of course, there is now the international break. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Sunday. I hope that you continue to join me at 8 a.m. throughout this break. Yes, it's going to be long and arduous, and it's going to be a scramble for news, but I'm sure there'll be news that we'll be talking about throughout the course of the next 2 weeks. We've got to keep our fingers crossed that players don't get injured. We don't want another Odegaard repeat situation, of course, again, and we've got to hope that the players are managed smartly, and that's also going to be really, really important as well. But thank you so much as always for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. Do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful, and as always, up the Arsenal.